Hello and welcome back to our continuing adventures on the Let's Defend platform. Today we are taking a look at a newly released exercise underneath the Security Analyst Path, that being SOC251 Quishing Detected, or QR Code Phishing. EventID is 214, type is Exchange, and this occurred January 1st, 2024, 12:37 p.m. It is a medium. So Quishing or QR code phishing is where instead of a link, you get a cred phishing email that effectively gives you a QR code where they expect you to sit there and take your personal device in most cases, scan it, and thereby bypassing like URL filtering and protections that would be in place on your workstation and the internet connection that the business would have. So it would be taking your personal device or maybe even your work supplied phone. You do the scanning on that, you bypass most if not all protections that would be there, and now you're presented with the phishing page and going through and doing the um, phishing, going through and entering your creds if you don't know what this is. So it looks like we've got security at microsecmfa.com, to clear at letsdefend.io. Email subject: New Year's mandatory security update implementing multi-factor authentication, MFA. MFA is a good thing as long as it's legitimate. So if we dig through, we do find the email that it was allowed. Hello Claire, you are mandated to update enable 2FA security on your account as of 2/1/2024 to mitigate theft. And to help protect your account, please scan the above QR code with your phone camera to generate a new device code for your Microsoft Authenticator app. Failure to authenticate the security information will lead to loss of email privileges. So, much like with any sort of cred phish, they are giving you a tight timeline, since this should be the second, and this would have come in on the first. So you've got 24 hours roughly to go through and do this, and otherwise you're going to quote unquote lose access to your email privileges. And it's the same thing, or visit websites equipped to scan QR codes, blah blah blah. Okay, so you're looking at this and like, okay, I don't really want to go through and I don't want to scan this with my personal device, or I don't want to scan this with my work provided phone if they give you one. So what are you supposed to do in regards to this? Well, you can sit there and since I'm on Windows, pull out the snipping tool, grab the QR code, save it as a file, and thankfully CyberChef has the option for you to open files and input. So you would select the QR code that you grabbed from the email using the snipping tool, the file that generated as the input, and they have a parse QR code recipe, which as you can see gives us the output. And if we try putting that into something, is this going to give us, okay, well, yeah, I understand the risks, take me there anyways. And while that's trying to figure out what it's doing, oh yeah, yes, got a double. Hey, webmail sign in. Doesn't really look like OWA or Office 365, but it's definitely a portion. It definitely looks like some sort of webmail. So let's go back and take a look at the email. So we've got microsec MFA. Well, if we take that, we dump it in. It's not rated currently as I'm doing this. Talos doesn't have anything on it. OTX has okay domains not resolving, and not URL void. So that's just a plum shame. And if we pivot and take the sending IP and start running that stuff through, it's looks like something to do with Tor on OVH hosting. Phishing, malicious, malware, spam. suspicious. We run it through, question a web rep on the IP address in Talos, OTX. OTX has got, okay, plenty of apparently bad stuff's been running through here. Phishing, malicious in terms of related tags, telemetry in the last 30 days, and it's a Tor node. And if we pop the sucker up inside of IP void, well, we don't get much of anything for it being on anybody's blacklist. But how about the fact that, okay, this thing doesn't exist anywhere else, but if we take it and dump it inside of VirusTotal now, the actual decoded URL inside the QR code, what do we get? Last analysis 29 days ago. Emisoft, EST Security, Nextcraft, Trustwave, Phishing, Malicious. Phishing, SharePoint with URL to fake Microsoft login page, 11 months ago. So apparently this domain's been used before. So let's just go ahead and get another analysis done. Since all this is basically a bust, if we just, oops, crap. And since we don't have anything for this, what if we start running this domain through everything? Does it say Talos doesn't have anything? Oh, here we go. Favorable peer file transfer. Looks like it at one time was on Talos's blacklist, but it's expired. Phishing scam Microsoft. $50 pulses. Jeez, 22 malicious files communicating. Yeah, this is bad. 6 days ago, 2 out of 40. Yeah, I would say that would be enough to, yeah, no. No, not at all. This is bad. Okay, so let's do this. I'm just gonna grab all this just for notes. We got the email in here now and saved, and we're just gonna nuke this because we don't want anybody else. Oh, now comes the fun part. This went to Claire. So what systems can we find with Claire? That system we can find with Claire. We can pivot back to log management, put Claire's stuff in there, and we have nothing one way or the other, which would make sense. We know that the email was allowed, but if they did not go through and do this, then more than likely they pulled out and pulled out their phone, hit it, and maybe tried to sign in. So if I just give this like some generic BS, like, Brad, I'm gonna pick on you. Yeah, let's see, what kind of password? And it changes it to BSH. And it looks like Bitdefender, at least on this particular box, is flagging while trying to actually hit this. A secured login session get us anything? No? But it does look like it tried to go through and actually pull it up. changes it to Google. What if we try to do... And then changes it. Okay. So as you go through and input, it changes it. But what? Now I would have figured the rest of this stuff here would have given us something. So let's spin up another. And it looks like it might be base 64, but we'll see what Magic says. Alternatively, you could just sit there and be like, no fear, and just pull out your personal device and scan it. But I would rather take steps like this to go through and do it. Unless I am really hurting for trying to get this stuff done. So we pop this in here. Where's Magic? Magic. Magic, what do you say? From base 58, from base 64, from base 85. Okay, how about base 58? Anything? Not two. From. So it's what? Base 58? Doesn't look. Base 64. From base 85. Nope, nothing in here that... I'm sure there could probably be more, but just quick and dirty. But yeah, that is definitely a not something that we really want. Okay. And we have no logs in there. Okay, how about browser history? All on the second? So this would have been after the quote-unquote arbitrary. Do we see them trying to bring that up? New York Times, Stack Overflow, GitHub, LinkedIn, Twitter. So at least on the box, it doesn't look like they did anything. Oh, so we have Outlook. So them probably checking their mail. This would have been on the second, so after the point. So this is where it gets kind of funky. We can, out of a straight abundance of caution, because if they used their phone to scan and it wasn't attached to the Wi-Fi, we wouldn't get any sort of log. Of course, that would also then depend. Okay, would we have personal devices attached to the corporate network, or would it be through a separate internet connection that it doesn't have as much filtering, but would only be for personal devices that would be on? If we assume full abundance of caution, we assume that okay, they went through, they tried to do this, and they actually did it. Realistically, we would try to probably reach out to Claire. Hey, you got this email. Did you follow the instructions in there? Did you pull out your phone, scan the QR code? Did you go? Did you enter any information? Everything else like that. But let's say we're running through this stuff and it's it's after hours. We can't really call the person, anything else like that. We're gonna assume the worst, just out of an abundance of caution. So we're gonna rotate passwords. We're gonna kill off active sessions, and effectively we're gonna quarantine the box. Is it more so? Sure. Had the end user actually reported this as phishing or some sort of weird unexpected email? Okay, by that particular point, hopefully, okay, we'd be on top of our game with email analysis and we would be talking to them, very shortly after they did this mission. But who's to say they weren't up at like 3 in the morning, whatever reason, going through their corporate email and maybe they've had a couple of beers and they're like, oh, yeah, I have been meaning to sit there and turn on MFA for my account. I don't want to sit there and lose my email privileges, so I'm just going to go ahead and just get this done. And then maybe they wake up in the morning like, oh crap, maybe that wasn't such a good idea. But so either which way, we can't confirm one way or the other. So we are just going to go with the worst case. We're going to assume, that they have gone through and done this. Though realistically, this is business hours, or if you've got like a company directory and you can sit there and call clear, get some sort of confirmation that no, they did not do this, or even if they did, that they did not actually fill out the form for the login page. Like this. So what if we did exactly? So clear and let's defend.io. Okay. And it just tries to grab, I'm assuming it's the fave icon, and just represents it up there for whatever the domain is entered in here. Which is fine. But this would be one of those situations where hopefully there's been a discussion, there's a standard operating procedure, everything else like that. Maybe you sit there and immediately try calling or pulling up Teams or Slack or whatever the case is and try to reach out to this person. And if you don't get a response within a couple of minutes, you're just assuming the worst. Because, okay, what's the worst thing? They have to sit there and reset their password when they come back in. Maybe they can't browse the internet on their work device, stuff like that. Okay, well, this is after hours. It's probably a little bit less of an impact of potentially having valid credentials having gone out to an attacker. So we're going to go with the abundance of caution, mostly just because of the fact of one of the other exercises that I just did recently and recorded. There wasn't any sign of exploitation after a password was brute forced. So we're just going to assume the worst case because there isn't an IM client built into this where we could sit there and say, hey, January 1st, right? Yeah, January 1st, you got an email that said New Year's mandatory security update implementing multi-factor authentication. There was a QR code in it. Did you scan it? If you scanned it, did you enter in any information in afterwards just to get what they say? But we've kind of reached the point. There's not a whole heck of a lot we can do. We've already taken a look at logs. We don't see anything from their endpoint, and unless we knew exactly what this has got the whole thing in here. So does this give us yeah, it gives us a serving IP address. Okay, let's take the serving IP address. Go back to log management because we didn't have anything for Claire's PC. Do we have anything that hits that IP address? No, we don't. IPFS.io. Okay, how about IPFS.io? Does that show up in anything? No, it doesn't. Multiple online threats blocked. Really? I know it doesn't show up for you guys, but apparently that IP address or the domain is not loved by Bitdefender, which is good. Does this give us anything in terms of a free text search, URL, or domain? Doesn't really look like it. Okay, well, it's worth a shot. So realistically, I think we're about done with this. I'm sure. Let's take ownership. This comes in. We're going to create the case and go through and answer what we've got. Got the playbook. alarms escalated from Tier 1 to Tier 2 should be caused by a truly harmful event. Escalated to Tier 1 are not always true positive due to technical inadequacy. Please verify that it was caused by malicious activity. Well, it's definitely a malicious email. What the QR code directs us to. And it looked like some sort of play on Microsoft and security and MFA for the sending domain. Didn't really see any sort of reconnaissance. But again, the instructions, as stated, were to scan the QR code with your phone camera. So, if not attached to the corporate network, there would be no records of trying to resolve, IPFS.io, and no device trying to reach out to, what was it? According to the virus total, 209.94.90.1. Okay, say they did personal device, pulled out the personal phone, scanned it. They're not even on corporate Wi-Fi. They're using their 5G, 4G, whatever connection. Still out. Which is why, effectively, it comes down to you've got to, one way or the other, make contact with the affected end user. You go through and, get a paper trail of them saying, yes, okay, yes, I did this, that, the other thing, or I did not do this, that, or the other thing. Or, hey, I saw it, it looked weird, I was going to get back and report it, but it's just been sitting in my inbox. I haven't done anything with it yet. Or, hey, I was going to reach out to somebody in security, I just didn't do anything. Or whatever. Worst case would be, yeah, I sent it over to a bunch of my coworkers because they didn't get it. So and we all went through and scanned it and filled it in. Oh, that would be terrible. Oh, so terrible. But I would also hope that we might see some internal to internal dumped in here like we have here, security and the like. But I don't see Claire having sent it to other people, so we don't have to. This is just going to be looks like isolated Claire. She's going to have a bad evening. Unusual suspicious domain names. Well, we found the email, and the endpoint security and the rest don't give us anything because, again, if they followed the exact directions that the email pointed to, it's use your phone to scan the QR code. What reconnaissance? Well, technically, they're phishing for information. They're phishing for confirmation of username and password. It is an external. Is it suspicious or not? I would say it would meet that level. Determine the scope. Well, we only found the one email in question. We don't see any, forwards of Claire to other people inside the organization. Even if they did forward it, we would have absolutely no insight unless they actually tried to scan it and then type it in themselves into their inputs. Is there more than one affected device? Honestly, as it is, we believe it's a singular device. And we're going to do containment because we can't confirm as to whether or not if she did or did not scan it and do the needful. Okay, so how did it happen? Phishing email with a QR code. Apparently the email system is not set up to scan QR codes. Or if it is, it does a terrible job in terms of going through and doing that. Which I can speak to unofficially in that QR code phishing is a very big problem, especially recently. Nobody seems to be doing a fairly good job with it, although there's been, was it, I think, Sublime Security? I think they've shown to sit there and be able to handle QR codes rather easily. And before anybody asks, no, I'm not employed by them. No directing anybody there. I don't have a referral code or anything else like that. But it's been brought up in regards to what they focused on. I'll see if I can find Sublime. Because I think they had a free tier that you could get stuff routed through, like if you were just basically getting hammered. And I think you can actually spin up your own instance to keep it like on-prem to go through and try to get some of this stuff done. If I remember correctly. Excuse me. But they've been demonstrated to be able to go through and handle QR codes. So I guess if your organization is having a problem, then this might be one of the things. So okay, we got that. How did staff and management? Realistically, as soon as the alert would have come in, oh yeah, we're doing this as security analyst, so this would be, so we're doing first level. So realistically, there is no staff. I mean, realistically, this should have been picked up, hopefully by technical control. Failing that, then the end user should have noticed that this looks weird from a security awareness training perspective and submitted it. Failing that, I mean, we're at that point. We're basically the next person in line as we go through and do this. But the problem is okay, we don't have a directory, so I can't call Claire. And I'm fairly certain if I sit there and open up my email client and write a quick blurb to Claire saying, hey, just checking in on this email to find out as to whether or not if you did anything, I'm not going to hear anything back. As I'm fairly certain there is not a Claire at letsdefend.io that's going to sit there, see the email come in, and reply back. Although that would be an interesting thing to sit there and put a chat bot in and just really constrain it. That you have to sit there and mention like the subject line or something else like that. And like, did you, scan the QR code? Did you enter in any information? Some sort of ask like that. Staff management do differently next time similar incident occurs? Well, again, hopefully staff would catch it and report it as phishing, or that it looks weird. Hey, somebody that, does this for a living, can you guys take a look at this and vet this? Management, realistically, okay, yeah, we should probably have, first security perspective, especially incident response perspective, phone numbers, some other way to contact these people, even if it's after hours, that we need to get answers to in order to get this stuff locked down. Because again, we've gone through and we've isolated the workstation out of an abundance of caution. Because we can't confirm one way or the other if she did or did not go through, scan it, and enter in her credentials into the phishing page. Corrective actions. We're going to lean real heavy on maybe supplemental security awareness training around QR phishing. Make sure that gets added in and pushed out. Maybe a blurb in there, like a company-wide announcement. Hey, we don't use QR codes. We're not going to send this stuff to you. We'll send you links, everything else like that. Or if you're going to set up MFA, we're going to give you this, that, and the other thing. Or you're going to work with somebody in security that, you could see face to face, whatever the case is, to actually get this stuff done. Even if it's, via a Teams call or Slack or whatever the case is. something that we can vet the chain. And then we're going to lead more heavily on, okay, whatever email solution or email security solution we have, okay, we need to get on whoever the vendor is, whatever the case is. We need this better. We need you taking care of QR code phishing because this is unacceptable. This is a becoming more prevalent threat, and obviously you guys aren't up to snuff, so we need to get this fixed. Or we need to sit there and find somebody else to loop into the chain and maybe have, one vendor taking care of like a lot of the low level stuff, and then we get maybe something like Sublime. Again, I don't get anything from them for saying this, but we loop them into something and maybe they handle just the QR code aspect, or we get somebody else. Precursor indicators watch for similar. Realistically, we would hope that we would have something that, maybe we just start blocking images in emails. Granted, yeah, it's probably going to honk a bunch of people off. It's going to break stuff, but if we can't get, a vendor in place or a solution to sit there and handle the QR codes, maybe we just nuke them. Because really, who cares that the email that you get from a vendor, their footer is screwed up because their little icon is missing because it was stripped out. But then realistically, we would probably want to see, okay, everybody be issued corporate phones, or we just give them the whole aspect of, yeah, you'd have to give everybody corporate phones, because if you were to sit there, turn around and say you can't use your personal phones for work, anything for work-related purposes, they're not going to sit there and pull the stuff out. And if they haven't been issued a corporate phone, if they've got something that actually does require MFA or 2FA, whatever the case is going to be, how are they supposed to get it? You had to have a code that would be sent to their email because you told them you can't use your personal device for, and if you don't provide them with a corporate device. So it's one of those chicken or the egg problems. Oh, and then we come up to all the other fun. So we got from here. Email sending IP. We have email domain. We're gonna have another portion for the sender. We got the full thing this time. Security at. We have a URL address. We have an IP address, and we don't have anything else past that point. So we have the URL. And then we're going to use the IP address as specified by virus total. The other aspect is too, we could sit there and probably try to generate an MD5 of the QR code. But again, depending as to what space, how much you grabbed, how much you didn't, gonna kind of defeat the point. And that's effectively what we've got. And user received a QR code phishing email that directed them to scan QR code using their phone and potentially bypass instances. Corp network signs the user. But we need to rotate passwords and have isolated workstation. Abundance of caution. So to confirm activity with user. We're just gonna go the super mega ultra cautious route. Because we can't confirm one way or the other. At least not with what we have. We're gonna call it true positive. And we'll see what we get. We got a 1-day streak. And there is a security report. Really? Oh, probably because it's going to contain information in there. So, like IP addresses or URLs. Okay, official incident report. Security from the 206-189. Okay, the report's wrong. SMTP address was 158.69.201.47, not 206.189, 190, 128. The alert is triggered by the SOC 190 rule 0 font phishing. I think somebody might have gone through and reused a report and not cleaned it up entirely. I'm not going to be too hard on them because I've done the same damn thing. You got like a template, something that matches fairly close, and so you're just going to sit there and just tweak a couple of things to get everything back together. And you give it a once over, it's like, oh yeah, that's fine. Forgetting that, okay, you didn't tweak this, you didn't remove that. So yeah, I'm not going to take that as gospel. QR codes have also been used by threat actors to embed malicious URLs, leading to unsuspecting users to compromise websites that can contain malware or gather credentials for exploitation, whereas this one tried to do the latter rather than the former. Was allowed. Appears to be phishing recon. And we take a look underneath email security, and we would find. Yeah, but that just takes us to this, where we could just have searched. But yeah, okay, that's fine. Looking for all that stuff. Yes, it's allowed. It's confirmed. There's a copy of what the email looks like, with the QR code. Oh, okay, they're doing the same exact thing. Grab it. Grab the QR code and dump it inside of CyberChef to go through and do the analysis. And then we get the same exact portion, which gives us the answers to the questions. And okay, they pulled it up and took a look at it as well. Oh, and they actually plopped it in for public submission. Okay, that's a little bit further than what I did. But, I mean, usually, like, okay, you go to an official, like Microsoft, like O365 sign in. It's not going to wait for you to sit there and start putting in your domain to look up what the fave icon is. So we'll pull that up. The same aspect, phishing, SharePoint with URL. Oh, so, okay, and if we took a look at the source, then we would have found more. So we could have technically had a bigger portion. Try to find the same aspect in regards to where it would have been submitted. Ajax, JSON. Right there. So I guess that would be the other aspect too. Okay, we take that and run that stuff through and see what shakes out. But, I mean, since we're here, let's just run that through VirusTotal. Because, yeah, we probably would have wanted to include that in as well for going through and looking. Okay, but they bring it up too. At least the domain, that it's got multiple things that flag. Phishing for information technique, that it's an external. It's got a bad reputation. Highly likely the user credentials have been compromised since I've been made. Okay, so they're assuming out of an abundance of caution that because even though we can't prove it, that and that the end user did not submit this, that they've actually gone through and done it. And they do the same exact thing. Quarantine the host, delete the email, educate users, yep, reset compromised, implement strong password, better email filtering, implement a security product that can analyze QR codes, secure company workers' phones with MD applications. Yeah, I'd agree with all that wholeheartedly. Now it's giving a 404, so the back end got nuked? Maybe. But still, we've got 6. Bitdefender's one of them. That probably explains as to why it's harassing so much. But there we go. Apparently perfect score, even though I missed the, whatchamacallit, the posting of the creds for that .it domain. Or nsgroup.it/fhfft/hhnew.php. But yeah, that would have been another nice piece to end up having. But wasn't really critical in this regard. But would have been another thing to go through and actually take a look to see as to whether or not if there would have been any hits to the domain, if we can find that in the logs, or if it was a corporate environment, we've got like say something like CrowdStrike installed, and go through and 24 hours, if it's close to whatever it would be to sit there and cycle this to see as to whether or not if there'd be any sort of DNS event for the ipfs.io or that, was it nsggroup.it domain, and get it straight from the end user's workstations from that particular point. Now, granted, yes, personal devices or corporate devices, hopefully that they would all be attached to a monitored internet connection. So at least maybe even on DNS level, you're getting something you can take a look at the logs to figure out who might have, actually fallen for it, scanned it with their personal device, their phone, and was presented with the login page and might have given out creds. But because we can't make any sort of confirmation with either which way, in this particular instance, it's abundance of caution. Isolate the workstation and get those creds rotated. Might have been about time for Claire to have her password rotated anyways. Who knows how long it's actually been sitting there. But, so there we go. That has been for Jan 1, 2024, 12:37 p.m. SOC 251 Quishing Detected, or QR code phishing. EventID 214 type exchange. With all that being said, I will now see everybody in the next video.